WISH 3.5.01, we've added an exciting new feature to help manage the statistics around beds that are unassignable because they're in a room that's got a family in it or something like that. And it all starts here. You can see the effects here. If we go in and we pull up a client who's currently in the shelter and go to the Stays tab, you see it's right over here where it says Share Room. And the choices are, it's either yes or no. So it's very visual, so you should be able to see quite distinctly what that means. In this case, you'll see we have a client called Susan Smith and her two children, Sally and Billy. So that's 3 people. They're in a room that has 4 beds in it. So it means that that 4th bed is simply not going to be able to be assigned to anybody. If we have a look at some of the other people who are in shelter, for example, if we look at this client, you see that she's in a room and we've marked that room as shareable, which there's herself and her son, and they're in a room with 2 beds. So not that there's more beds, but if there were, what we're saying by this being yes is that we will allow that to be shared. So it looks like this when you do the day end. If we were to do the day end for the 6, it would show up in here. And the colors are really, really important. So you'll notice that room 5 is the one that had Susan and her 2 children in it. You'll notice it's yellow. What the yellow indicates is that there are beds in that room that are not being utilized. And because the room is set to be not shareable, we will not be putting anybody in them. Unlike, for example, room 7, where we have Kim Thompson in, but you see at the top of that notation that there is an unused bed in that room. So that must be a room with 2 beds in it, and there's 1 available. And according to this, we would assign that bed if it was needed to be given to a client coming in. The fact that it's marked shareable or not shareable, WISH will not stop you from putting anybody in a room that's marked unshareable. It's just for statistical purposes. So getting used to these colors are really, really important. You notice room 8, which is showing up in this light red or pink color. That's a room that we've got more people in the room than we have beds. So we're marking that as an overused bed. Room 3 that's just showing in white means that that room is fully utilized. So the use of this Share Room button here and either toggling it between yes and no has particular importance for shelters in Ontario because that's a statistic that you're asked to report to your funder. Now, when we do a new intake to somebody in the shelter, this button will try to assess what's the right choice, either marking a room shareable or not shareable. And where that comes from is on the system parameters screen, there is this new setting here for default room sharing strategy. And you can see that your choices are that you would always share a room, never share a room, or singles share a room. In my experience traveling throughout Canada, it seems to me that the most popular choice would be that singles share a room. But if you never would put 2 individuals who weren't related in a room, you would choose never share. So that's the choices you make. On my demo here, you'll notice I've got 5. Most shelters are only running a single shelter, so you only need to worry about shelter 1. If you are running our companion license and have an additional shelter, you could have a different strategy for each of your shelters. Anyway, so that's what the new Share Room feature is all about. And I think it would be important to make sure that the staff understand exactly what that means, particularly in Ontario, where it is a statistic that is required. Thank you.